If you're a big fan of Darth Jar Jar, well, you have some really good news now. You can actually play as Jar Jar. I don't know if it's canon. I don't know if Fortnite is canon at all. I mean, it should be, I guess. In an alternate universe somewhere, there is an actual Darth Jar Jar. All of us hardcore Star Wars fans know that that was the original plan for George Lucas, whether he wants to admit it or not. But yes, you can now have an evil version of Jar Jar. Although, in my personal opinion, I prefer like the regular, like semi-powerful Jar Jar that's just destroying entire droid armies as a good guy. I mean, would have I loved to see Snoke be like an older version of Jar Jar? Maybe, but my entire dreams were dashed pretty early on. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video, because today's video is no joke. I actually wanted to give you guys my personal thoughts on this new Disney Plus Shorts animated series that they just launched. They've been doing this for quite some time. They did the whole Jedi Tales, and now we get the Underworld little shorts here from Star Wars as a whole. And I will say, look, I'm just going to give it to you guys, or I'm going to give you guys my take here pretty raw. I was going to say I'm just going to give it to you guys raw, but then that would come off weird. Here's the thing. Look, I think in essence, it's a good show. Like, there are some great episodes here. There are some great character development going on. We get 3 episodes that feature Cad Bane, kind of a little bit of an origin story. They flesh out the character a little bit more. And what I will say, and this is one of the things that I liked about the series, is just how brutal the show is. Gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. Specifically with the Cad Bane storyline, they had an opportunity here, and what I really like is they went all out. We got some great storytelling with what I believe it was Jedi Tales, where they showcased Count Dooku right before he joins the dark side, where he battles Yaddle, and it was an amazing story. I absolutely loved it. We got to see his transition into the dark side, very similar to the way that we saw Anakin become Darth Vader, which is one of my favorite little story arcs, and so I absolutely loved it. And there was a possibility here where they maybe try to show Cad Bane as kind of like a good guy, like potentially, he started off in a really bad environment and he just kind of roughened up and became the modern day Cad Bane. However, I like what they did here. They went all out. They made him an incredibly evil character, which is, again, what we see in the modern day Star Wars universe, and I truly appreciated that. There's another little storyline here, a 3-episode storyline featuring Ventress, which was kind of interesting. I'm not going to spoil too much about the 3 episodes featuring her little storyline, but I also really enjoyed it. It's really intriguing. Again, you're fleshing out a character that we're already pretty familiar with. My problem with this entire series, and as I said, like, in essence, they're great. The bare bones, like the foundation that they're laying down, is great. But the problem that I have is the wasted potential here. Would I have loved a Count Dooku origin, like, animated series or a film? I would have preferred that over these tiny little, like, 15-minute episodes. I don't understand their mindset. Not to mention, you do get like a 15-second, or I should say a 15-minute episode, or 13 to 15-minute episode, whatever the case is. But what's interesting is there's still like those little filler moments, like they still pan around looking at the entire scenery, or they have like these nonsensical moments that just waste time in the episode. You're already constrained to like 13 to 15 minutes to fully tell a story in each episode, and then on top of that, they're just wasting time with showcasing the scenery and how amazing the animation looks, which in a normal film, in a normal TV series like the Clone Wars, I completely understand it. I love it, but it just didn't make sense in this particular, in this particular setting. For me personally, I would have preferred a film, a Count Dooku origin film, maybe not as fleshed out as like the Anakin storyline where we get 3 films, but at least 1. Are you telling me that Disney just doesn't have the money to fully invest in Star Wars right now? And that's probably one of the bigger issues that I have with the universe as a whole. As good as The Mandalorian and Book of Boba, as great as they have been, through certain episodes, because not the entire show is great, but those few episodes that are great, they're still held back because of that budgetary constraint. And you can consistently see it. We saw it with the Daredevil Born Again TV series, or the Disney Plus series, which I thought was really good, had some great moments, but you could definitely see the budgetary constraints, and this just kind of feels like that entire situation in a nutshell. For me personally, All of these storylines deserved their own little universe. The Count Dooku storyline, the Cad Bane. I mean, who wouldn't have loved a Cad Bane origin story? And by the way, the story that's told from Cad Bane's perspective is actually pretty dark. Like I said, it's an absolute gut punch, and it deserved to be a little bit more fleshed out. Here you kind of get him as a kid, you see him as a teenager, and then eventually you see him, closer to what we see in the modern day, like Clone Wars era. And for me personally, I just wanted a little bit more. As I said, they're great shows, they're great episodes, great dialogue, great character development. I love the animation style here. It's very modern, but it just feels very short. It feels like we're getting cheapened out here. It feels like if you took a bathroom break and took a little bit longer to drop a deuce, you come out of the restroom and the entire show is over. It's just frustrating. I don't understand the direction of just Disney in general, but more specifically Star Wars. I don't understand why it is that you have these great concepts, you have these great storylines, great characters that you can flesh out on screen and give us, just a little bit more of. And instead you relinquish them to just giving them like a tiny little 15-minute episodes. In most cases, they're getting 3 episodes, but in reality, each episode kind of feels like its own story, because sometimes there's a giant gap in between each episode. Like there's a quite a bit of time that passed by each individual episode. But again, this is just my personal take, my personal perspective. I want more. That's exactly what I'm saying from the Star Wars universe. I'm glad that they announced at the newest Star Wars celebration that they're actually giving us films that are based on stuff that is, past the entire Rey trilogy. I don't want to see any more prequels. I don't want to see them try to expand anything within the Clone Wars era. I think we're already fatigued about that. We want the story to continue. We want to see new characters. We want to see the universe expand. And every time it feels like it's, in the right direction, or every time that they have a good idea, I feel like the execution just isn't quite there. I'm not saying give us like an entire, film franchise around Count Dooku and Ventress. I'm not saying that at all, but at least like one season, like an animated season, or, an animated film maybe, or like a live action film. Why not? It's not like they have a ton of projects in the work right now. I would have loved to see that, like bare minimum, in my personal opinion. I'm saying like the overall bare minimum, they could have done a little comic book series to give these characters a little bit of love, but unfortunately we didn't get any of that. But as I said, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys enjoying these type of like little Disney Star Wars shorts, like these little short episodes, these little mini series? Do you guys enjoy them? Do you like them like this, or would you rather prefer a more classic format with like 30-45 minute episodes? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.